Hare Krishna, everyone. In this Bhagavad Gita session, we're going to look at chapter 14, verse 4, which goes, Sarvayonishu Kaunteya Murtaya Sambhavantiya Tasam Brahma Mahadyonir Aham Bija Pradapita. English translation. It should be understood that all species of life, O son of Kunti, are made possible by birth in this material nature, and that I am the seed-giving Father. So let's take a look at a brief explanation of this verse in the first instance, and then we'll go into more detail. So in this verse, so we'll read the English translation again. So Krishna says, it should be understood that all species of life, O son of Kunti, are made possible by birth and this material nature, and that I am the seed-giving Father. So according to the scriptures, there are 8.4 million species of life found everywhere, within water, within fire, on this planet, other planets such as the sun, the moon. So living species are everywhere. And Krishna says he is the Father, he's the seed-giving Father of all these species. So every living being has a father and a mother. So we know therefore that Krishna is our father. And who is our mother? It's material nature. Krishna said they're made possible by birth in this material nature. So it's like all living entities are in the womb of Mahamaya, material nature. We know that in this material universe, Mahamaya she's the energy, material nature, material energy of Krishna. So it's like we're in the womb of material nature. So there are all these species, these 8.4 million species of life. They are in the different forms, different shapes, different colors, and all of these living entities acquire these different bodies according to the past deeds. So they get these at the time of creation according to the past deeds. So once we understand that Krishna is our Father, then we should surrender to the lotus feet of our Supreme Father, because that's the way we can find a sense of protection and supreme peace. This mentality will bring peace and prosperity to human society. So there wouldn't be any wars, any killing, stealing the property of others, if we understood that we are all children of the one same Supreme Father. We're all children of God, and we're related to one another. We're all siblings of the same parent. So if we understand that, then we will respect everyone, and we will have compassion, we will be at peace, because we know that we're not alone, that our Father is taking care of us. And so that's how we can get peace and protection and prosperity in human society. Also, there are other implications to it. So we understand that Krishna is our Father, which means just as an obedient son of the Father does not go against the will of the Father, in the same way we should follow Krishna's instructions and do as he says, because when a father gives instructions to his children, he always means good. He means he's all for the welfare of his children, even if the instructions might not be very palatable but still they're meant for the good. And so, for instance, say a child gets too close to fire, right? And the father says, no, don't touch the fire, you'll get burnt. So father's giving good instruction to the child, but if the child persists and goes against the will of the father, because he thinks he knows too much or he wants to enjoy, then he's bound to get burned. In the same way, if we think we know better and so we don't want to follow the instructions, it's going to ultimately, it will be to our own disadvantage. We'll just continue being anxious and miserable and keep falling down until we understand that the only way out is to follow the instructions. So all living entities within the material world are exactly like misled children of a wealthy man who has left home to loiter in the street. So what this analogy is saying here is that, so there's a story. So once a boy, he left home and he met with an accident and he forgot everything. He forgot who his father was, who his mother was, or where he lived. He ended up in hospital. He lost his memory. And when he was discharged, because he had no clue where his home was and who he was even, he had no other means but to beg on the streets. And he would sleep on the streets, and some days go hungry. And he was cold and miserable, had nowhere to go. So some people approached that person, that boy, and said, here's a piece of bread for you. You know, here's a little bit of money. Go get yourself some food or some clothes. And that was helpful, but not for long, obviously. But there were some people who knew where the boy lived, who his real parents were, and who he was, what his name was, and everything. So these people, out of compassion, approached the boy and told him, look, you don't belong here. You belong to a very rich family. You have a father who is so caring and wealthy, and he's waiting for you to come back. So quit this begging and come with me. Let's go back home, back to your parents. And so those people, they brought the boy. They reunited the boy with his family. So in the same way, we're like that little boy. We're here in the material world. We're miserable. We're anxious. We're trying to find happiness externally. But the truth is, we don't have to suffer like this, because we have a father who's Krishna, and he is very opulent, very wealthy, and he's caring, and he's waiting for us to come back home. And the home, our eternal home, is the spiritual world, where there is no birth and death and misery. And the devotees are those people who came to the boy to give him the real knowledge, because he had forgotten, to give him that knowledge that he does not belong there, that he can be happy. He doesn't need to be begging for sustenance. He doesn't need to be miserable. So these devotees who come out, go on books, tell people about Krishna, tell people about the Supreme Lord. These devotees are the real people out there who are doing real welfare work, because they're trying to reunite the soul that is wanting eternal happiness. They're trying to reunite the soul to the Supreme Father. Right, so that was just a very nice analogy there. So we can see, therefore, the greatest benefit that one can bestow upon one's fellow human being is to give him Krishna consciousness, is to tell him about the Supreme Lord, and give him directions of how to to be reunited with Krishna. So Krishna, being a Supreme Father, he's very kind, and he supplies living entities with all of life's necessities. As a Supreme Father, the Lord, however, does not supply to a pure devotee what is considered to be a barrier to the discharge of devotional service. So there are 2 points here. So one is that the Lord is like a desire tree, and whatever we want from the desire tree, the Lord supplies everything for our basic living: air, water, heat, food, and even all the animals out there. They're not going to work. They're not striving hard, but the Lord is supplying to them. All these birds we see flying in the sky in the morning, they're alive somehow. They're finding food and they're surviving, and that's because Krishna is taking care of them, just like he's taking care of us. And so the Lord is he's like a desire tree, and he supplies everything. But obviously, because he wants only good for us, he doesn't give us everything we want. Like a father, he knows what's good for the children. So say a child may be asking for a lot of candy because the child thinks the candy is going to make him happy, but the father knows, that means trouble. That means frequent trips to the dentist. That means having to extract rotten teeth. That means maybe obesity, or that means all kinds of diseases from eating too much sugar. So the father knows what is best for the child. And so if the child wants candy all the time, father will not supply candy, and that's for the own good of the children. In the same way, Krishna doesn't want us to stay in this miserable world. He wants us to come back to him. And so if we ask for certain things which could make us forget him or stray from the path to coming back to him, then that's considered to be a barrier for us, and he will never provide us. It's not that he's bad or that he is not listening to our prayers for such and such material things. It's just he knows what's best for us. Right, so then big question. So how did we end up in this material world? So according to the scriptures, obviously, it is said that we were initially in Vaikuntha or Goloka Vrindavan. And then what happened is 10% of souls living in the spiritual world start to develop some contaminating desires to be the enjoyer. So Prabhupada says, we have also come down from Vaikuntha some millions and millions of years ago. In a letter he says, these spirit souls and all spirit souls are coming from Vaikuntha. So even in the Vaikuntha, if I desire that, why shall I serve Krishna? Why not become Krishna? I immediately fall down. So as we can see in Vaikuntha Lok or Goloka Vrindavan, everyone is focusing on the Lord, and they just want to make the Supreme Lord happy. Because that's the constitutional position of every soul, is we're meant to be a servant of the Lord, not an enjoyer. The Supreme Lord is meant to be the enjoyer, and we are meant to be a servant. So in this material world, servant is kind of a looks down upon sort of role. It's a subordinate role that's got a negative connotation. But actually, in the spiritual world, being a servant means increasing happiness and bliss and satisfaction, because that is our constitutional position. And when we make Krishna happy, we automatically feel very happy. So as we can see here, all the associates of the Lord in Vaikuntha are busy serving the Lord. So what happens is, at some point, some of the souls start to develop this polluting mentality, this envy against the Lord. Oh, why can't I become Krishna? Why is everyone serving Krishna? Why can't I be the Lord? Why can't everyone serve me instead? So when this contaminating, polluting thought comes upon the living entity, that's when we're no longer qualified to be there in Vaikuntha anymore. We're like the odd one out. We don't fit there, and so we fall down. So this mentality is what makes the soul fall down. And Krishna, being very, very kind, he sends us, he knows our desire, and he wants to satisfy this desire of the soul to be the Lord. So he sends us here in this material world, where we are put in the illusion that we are the master and that everyone should serve us and that we are the Lord of everything we see. So that is when we come to this material world. We take our first birth in this material world. That's it. We've come down to, fallen from the spiritual world. So as soon as we want to become master, that is the beginning of our birth in the material world. And Krishna sends us here because he's just satisfying our desire. As we said, Krishna he's a desire tree, and he only wants to satisfy our desires. So then the living jivas, the rebellious jiva souls, Prabhupada says it's less than 10% of the inhabitants of the spiritual world. So these rebellious jiva souls, after leaving Vaikuntha or Goloka Vrindavan, they come by the dreams of Mahavishnu. They come to this this material world. So the seeds from the spiritual world, they are transferred by Mahavishnu, as we can see. So Mahavishnu glances over Maya Devi, material nature. She's the prison house, the guardian of the prison of material world. So Krishna, Mahavishnu glances at Prakriti, so glances at material nature, and in this way he transfers these seeds from the spiritual world via the medium of Shambhu. So Shambhu, we know, is the husband, right? We see Shambhu here. He is the husband of Durga Devi, and so he can associate with Durga Devi. So Mahavishnu, he wants to stay away from material creation, so he only sends the seed through Shambhu, and in this way he impregnates material nature with all these jivas. So we can see here the Supreme Lord's glance at the sum total of material energy Maya infuses it with time and destiny and nature of all the jivas, thereby agitating it. So in this way, material nature, she gives the body to the seed. So we know, like, say, a mango fruit, right? There's a seed and there's pulp around it. So material nature, Mahamaya, she gives the pulp. So she gives the body made of material elements: earth, water, fire, air, ether. And whereas Krishna would give the seed. And therefore, material nature is our mother, and Krishna, who gives the seed, is the father. Obviously, we've heard of Lord Brahma being the secondary creator. So what Lord Brahma does is he creates the 8.4 million species of life. So the diversity of forms, shapes, he creates all of these. And obviously the Jivatma will take one of these species, will be taking birth in one of these species based on their karma, their previous activities. So activities in the previous life, and desires, thoughts at the time of death, and all of that. So, well, Brahma is a secondary creator. So, if we take the example of the fruit, then we were talking about the mango. So, of course, there are other fruits that also have seeds. So, the seed could be a seed in the mango, or could be a seed in an apple, or could be a seed in a pear, or in a grape, or and an orange. So all this diversity of fruits, orange, pear, and all of that, it's like Lord Brahma would have created them. So the seed would be in any fruit. So the diversity is created by Lord Brahma. So right, let's move on now. So we have another question. So why doesn't Krishna take us back home immediately? So we talked about that the boy who forgot about his home, forgot everything. So in the same way, what we're thinking, so why doesn't Krishna take us home? Because Krishna doesn't want us to suffer here. He's the father, right? And no father wants to see their child suffer. Actually, the reason why Krishna doesn't take us back home immediately, he doesn't force us. He gives us independence. God gives independence to everyone because he's so kind and he loves us. And the nature of love is when you love somebody, you don't want to force them to love you. You don't want to force them to love you. You want them to automatically love you and be your friend. Or so in the same way, if a person desires to have material enjoyment and very sincerely wants to have such facilities, then the Supreme Lord, as a super soul in everyone's heart, he understands and he gives facilities to these people. So he's there, he's a witness of all our desires, and he facilitates them. He gives us what we want. He does not want to interfere with our independence. He doesn't want to force us. We have the choice. We have the choice whether we want to suffer or we want to take instructions and go back to him. And as long as we want to enjoy independently from Krishna, we're not qualified to go back to the spiritual world, because we've looked at how the inhabitants of the spiritual world, they are only interested in not their own sense gratification, but in making Krishna happy. So we're here and we've turned away from Krishna, and we are busy enjoying, or trying to enjoy anyway, in this prison house. Krishna tolerates. He's the Supreme Father, and he tolerates. He knows what's best for us, but he has to tolerate it because it's our choice to continue staying here and enjoying. There's an example which I've heard. It's about, say, in a school there are teachers, and teachers teach the students throughout the academic year all good things, so children learn a lot. And at the end there is an exam, and during that exam there might be multiple choice questions where the teacher will ask a question, but then he gives so they will give four different answers, 3 of which will be wrong and 1 of which will be right. So it's not that the teacher wants the students to fail by giving these 3 wrong answers, but the teacher wants the students to choose the right answer based on all they've been learning, learning throughout the year. So the teacher gives good instructions, but at the end, the students need to make the choice, the right answer is what they have to pick. So in the same way, Krishna, he gives us choice. He gives us all facilities to enjoy, but the choice has to be our choice. So we make the choice whether we want to continue enjoying them or we want to go back to Krishna. And Krishna is so kind that he supplies us with everything for us to enjoy in this material world. And he doesn't just abandon us. He doesn't just say, okay, well, off you go to the material world. You've been envious and you want to be the Supreme Lord, so off you go and I forget about you, bye bye. He doesn't do that. He is so kind that he accompanies us here in this material world. He comes in our soul. He's seated as a super soul. He's there. We're not alone. He comes, and whenever he sees that we've turned away from material things, we're taking his instructions seriously, he guides us from within with the torchlight of knowledge. He sends a spiritual teacher to us. He wants us to come back to him. So whenever he sees this little inclination to come back, to go back to Godhead, he helps. But this inclination, the determination has to be there. So Krishna's affection for all living entities is eternal. He therefore descends from time to time. He descends to reclaim all fallen conditioned souls, to call them back to the spiritual world, so the living entities may regain their eternal position, Sanatan positions, in eternal association with the Lord. So we know that Lord Krishna comes as Lord Chaitanya, a golden incarnation in Kali Yuga. So he came 500 years ago because Krishna, as we said, he cares, and he even came in the form of a devotee just to teach us how a devotee should act, how we should act in order to go back to Godhead. He gave us the Maha Mantra, the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra, which is Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. And he says, only chant this and you can come back to me in this very lifetime. If you follow certain regulative principles and chant with sincerity, you can come back. He says, come back to me. So it's a very, very simple process. Krishna sends spiritual gurus, spiritual masters. The masters are representatives of Krishna, actually. They come, they give us instructions, so we can then reach our destination. We know Prabhupada is the founder Acharya of the Hare Krishna movement, so he wrote so many books. All we need to do is just read the books and follow instructions. Right, so in this connection, some people may say that so Krishna is he's a supreme father of all living entities, but he might be partial to devotees, give facilities to certain people and not to others. Actually, Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita, so Bhagavad Gita 9:29, I envy no one, nor am I partial to anyone. I'm equal to all. But whoever renders service unto me in devotion is a friend, is in me, and I'm also a friend to him. So Krishna is like a cloud, a rain cloud, and we know that just like a cloud, a cloud which pours rain all over, regardless of whether the rain is falling on rocks or land or water. Krishna is like that. He's supplying everything, all necessities of life, and he is providing everybody with opportunities, with choices. So Krishna, he takes care of everyone, and if one takes one step towards Krishna, he takes 10 steps towards that person. So it's just a step that needs to be taken, and devotees might have taken the step already, and Krishna, he reciprocates in proportion to the surrender of the living entity. Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita that as they surrender unto me, I reward them accordingly. Everyone follows my path in all respects. So yeah, Krishna, he does not discriminate. We're all his children. Yet he may have a special interest in devotees, because devotees know no one but himself as their Lord, and they are helpless and completely surrendered to Krishna. So he gives more attention. It's like, say, a mother may have a lot of children. Some are toddlers, some are maybe all growing up teenagers, and there might be a newborn baby. So the mother, when the newborn baby cries, it's with helplessness, because the newborn cannot take care of themselves. So the mother would be more likely giving more attention to the newborn as opposed to the teenager calling her. So in the same way, if we're calling out to Krishna with helplessness in a mode of surrender, then he will give attention to us, and he will reciprocate with his devotee. Right. So let's check out this slide here, which is talking about the implications of seeing Krishna as the father of all beings. So to accept Krishna as father means, my father is here, I have no anxiety, I will just live in on him. So if I'm having trouble, I will just pass it on to Krishna and say, Krishna, you take care of this because you're my father, and I'm just surrendered unto you. So we have no anxiety. We know that Krishna is taking care of us. He's there, and he is only sending what's good for us. So any problems we have in life, we see these problems as Krishna's mercy. It means he's trying to help us to come back to him faster. It's not that he wants to hurt us. Right, so as a good son of the Father behaves in a friendly way with all his other brothers, so also the devotee of the Lord sees all other living beings in relation with the Supreme Father. So that means that we treat other living entities, be it insects, be it animals, be it plants or human beings, with respect, love. And we don't want to hurt anyone or envy others, because we are all children of God. So all living entities we know are part and parcel of the Supreme Lord, like little sparks of a big fire. So all living entities, the jivas, the souls, the jiva atmas, they are little sparks of the big fire, which is the Supreme Lord. Krishna is the father of all living beings, including demigods, such as Lord Brahma, Lord Shiva. So therefore, a devotee wants to help other living beings to go back to Godhead, and that's why we mentioned earlier on, devotees go out on books. They try to tell others about Krishna. True peace in society. So true peace can only be achieved if we understand that we all belong to Krishna's big family. Right, there's a story that comes to mind. It's the story of how a group of sages were on the banks of the river Saraswati, and there arose a discussion amongst them. So they were discussing who out of the three chief lords, Brahma, Vishnu or Shiva, is the greatest. So one of them, Bhrigu Muni, he was deputed to investigate this, to bring an answer to this question. So he thought, okay, so I'll put to test the Lord's tolerance, because tolerance is a great quality. So the Supreme Father tolerates. So tolerance is a sure sign of greatness. So he went to Brahmalok, and he saw Lord Brahma sitting there on the throne. And as he entered, Lord Brahma was so happy to see him because Bhrigu Muni is his son. So he was happy, but then he saw his son came in and did not bother to offer him any respect. So Brahma became very angry, but he tried to suppress his anger because obviously Bhrigu Muni was his son, but still he was very angry because he did not receive any respect. Bhrigu Muni then walked off. He understood, okay, so Brahma got very angry because I did not offer him obeisances. So next, Bhrigu went to Lord Shiva. Lord Shiva is his elder brother, so Lord Shiva saw his brother coming. He was so happy. He got up. He wanted to embrace Bhrigu Muni, but Bhrigu Muni then he committed the offences of saying, "Oh no, stay away from me. You're just a deviant heretic." So he didn't want to be hugged by Lord Shiva. When Lord Shiva heard this, he became very angry, and he took his trident up and he was about to kill Bhrigu Muni, but obviously the gentle goddess Parvati pacified her husband and said, "No, you can't kill him. He's a Brahmin. He's your younger brother. Please forgive him." So he was saved. Bhrigu Muni was saved. Next, he went to Vaikuntha, the ocean of milk. He saw Lord Narayan lying there on Anantashesh with his with his head on the lap of Lakshmi Devi. So Bhrigu Muni then jumped and kicked his chest. But instead of becoming angry, both the Lord and Lakshmi Devi quickly stood up and immediately offered respects to Bhrigu Muni. Lord Vishnu said, "Oh, Bhrigu Muni, you've come to see us. Please, welcome. Please sit down. Take a rest. Forgive us, my dear Master. Forgive us for not noticing your arrival. We've committed a great offense. Please forgive us." Lord Vishnu then said, "Your leg might have been badly hurt because my chest is too hard. It's way too hard for it to bear your soft feet. Please forgive me." He was very humble instead of being angry. So Bhrigu Muni was very impressed because he had committed such a big offense of kicking the Lord in the chest. And yet, Lord Vishnu was very calm and tolerant. So Bhrigu Muni went back to the assembly of sages and he told them everything that had happened. So we can see how the Lord, he was very, very tolerant to the blow, the kick of Bhrigu Muni. And we know that, say, if a father is holding a little child, and the little child with the soft feet, they're kicking on the chest, the father doesn't take offense. In the same way, Krishna, being so infinitely merciful and compassionate for all of us, we may turn away from him. Some people in ignorance may say blasphemous words against him, but he doesn't take offense. So that was verse 14.4. So having seen that Krishna is our seed-giving Father, we should surrender unto him and chant the holy name as per his instructions as obedient children, and it's for our own good. We can easily go back to Godhead by chanting the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra as per his instructions. Hare Krishna.